Naija women going rogue as they move abroad, or Japa is changing the Nigerian woman. Welcome back to my channel, guys. Hope you're doing well. My name is Yetunde. You already know what I'm going to talk about, so let's get into this. Is Japa changing the average Nigerian woman, or are Nigerian women going rogue when they travel abroad? This is very interesting because I've been seeing a number of stories online about basically marriages falling apart once they go abroad. So much so that I think that if you probably ask the average Nigerian man, if you were to Japa today, Nigerian man living in Nigeria, if you were to Japa today, would you take your wife with you? I feel that potentially probably 50% of them will say, or 60% will say no, that they'll probably leave their wives back in Nigeria and they will go abroad because of all the things that they are hearing in the news. If you're a man watching this video, I'm asking you this question, and I would love for you to comment below in the comment section. Would you allow your wife to travel abroad and you stay behind, or would you take her with you if you decide to travel abroad? Let me know what your answers will be. I want to hear it. I want to see them. Let me know. This whole thing about Japa is not new. It is not new at all. It has been happening for decades. Unfortunately, a lot of people have migrated from Africa to the West for years. And, you know, in times past, it has declined, but now it's on the high, right? It's trending. It's what's happening. People are moving in masses from Africa abroad. And I remember when I was younger, it was common. It was still very much happening, and we would have aunties and, you know, play cousins and cousins that they would be here with their mums and their dad is in Nigeria. We never knew where their dad was, but we knew that he was in Nigeria. And maybe the dad would come to visit, but some I never ever saw the dad, right? I even have, I don't know if I can even share this online, but I have personal experience of family members that they too did the whole long distance. Like the auntie is here, the uncle is back there. Oftentimes, the uncle back there would find another auntie back there. Not the same one that he left behind, but there's another auntie back there. That I'm not going into that one. It's not my business. But what I wanted to talk about was the fact that it appears that Nigerian women are changing when they travel, which is causing Nigerian men to feel fearful, maybe quite wary about allowing their wives or enabling their wives to come abroad. I think that abroad is not what is changing them. I think that the reality is in Nigeria, there is an oppressive mentality towards women. I'm not saying this to be woke. I'm saying this as a reality and as a woman that has lived in Nigeria, right? As a single woman, especially. Being a single woman in Nigeria, God, I beg. Anyway, unfortunately, there is a lot of laws in place that on just kind of attitudes that don't encourage and they don't empower women in Nigeria. Whereas when you go abroad, it's a different thing entirely. Am I saying that women are not second-class citizens abroad? I'm not saying that, because they still are. It's still, you know, it's still a man's world pretty much. But am I saying that they have more freedom abroad? Yes. Yes, I am. Because I can say to you categorically that the average Nigerian woman that maybe she's, well, you know, they're comfortable and perhaps she's not really working, or she's a housewife, or whatever the situation may be, but the husband is the main breadwinner. So therefore, a lot of the things that she desires and she needs is the husband that provides it. But when you move abroad, it's different. There are more opportunities to work because there are systems in place that enable that. And there are outlets in order for you to work in different ways, whether it's working from home, whether it's working part-time. It just has, there's just a better system. Whereas in Nigeria, you may have a business. That's great. That happens as well. But it's not common that women that have businesses in Nigeria are earning enough money. Like, it's not common that they earn more than their husbands. I can say, from, maybe I'm assuming, but from a lot of the stories that I know, and personally and otherwise, the men usually tend to hold the economic power. So once they go abroad, there is more. There's a bit more for the women. They are able to become more independent, money wise. They're able to be more independent in terms of education. Education, let me use the UK for example. Education is free for the most part, and maybe if you came here as a student, that in itself is empowering. You are learning something different, which is empowering you to become essentially your own financier. So then you don't have to rely on your husband. You don't have to rely on them to provide the things that you've had to rely on in Nigeria. You've had to rely on him to provide like the food, you know, the rent, everything. And then you come abroad and there's more of an even playing field. You're working, he's working. Things have changed. That in itself is a completely new dynamic. Also, again, I'm going to use the UK as an example because that's the only kind of laws I'm familiar with. But here is different to Nigeria when it comes to the children. In Nigeria, okololomo, like they say, the men, the husband is like the head of the household. Therefore, anything to do with the children lies with the husband. Like, they are the ones that would have custody if there was a divorce. That the man would automatically usually get custody unless otherwise, but usually the man would get custody. Whereas over here it's different. It tends to be the woman that would get custody unless she was seen as unfit as a mother. So there are many different things. I'm just using those as major examples, but there are many different reasons as to why women change. But I don't think that it's abroad that necessarily changes them. I think that it's the reality that they have more freedom. That's really it. There is more freedom. There is more freedom for the women to make more money themselves. There's freedom to choose. I think that also the root and the foundation of the marriage, I think it's exposed once you move abroad. If you don't like your husband in Nigeria, but you have to manage him because he's the breadwinner and he's the one that takes care of everything, you just do what you do, right? When you come to the UK and you have the ability to make your own money and, you know, do the things that you had to rely on him to do, take that away. He doesn't have to do that anymore. What do you then need him for? Right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not promoting like this kind of lifestyle. I'm not promoting that marriages should end. God forbid. That's not God's plan for any marriage. But I'm highlighting something that is happening, and it's almost seeming like an epidemic, because it's like, oh my God, this is happening. Marriages are apparently crashing, or, you know, people are just divorcing. The divorce rate has gone up because people have moved abroad. So it now takes me back to, why did you get married? What was the reason that you married your husband? So if you're in a position right now, maybe you don't really like your spouse very much, maybe this is for you. Because I'm not going to pretend that I like my husband every time. I can get on his nerves, he can get on my nerves. But I say this because for me, divorce is not an option. I know that we may face challenges, especially in the kind of season that we're in, where he's in Nigeria most times and I'm here, and we meet every month and everything, and by the grace of God, we do what we need to do to establish ourselves and to connect and to reconnect each time. But when you get to a point that you feel like, I don't want to reconnect with this person, then I want you to go back to, why did you marry that person? Why did you marry them? Was it because it was the thing to do? There was the next phase of life to get married? Were you forced? Was it because you had a child? What was the reason? Or did you genuinely love this person and you saw a life with this person? And if that's the case, then why not surrender that to Christ? Why not give it to the Lord and ask him to help you? I need you to understand that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Everywhere belongs to God, whether it's Canada, the US, Nigeria, the UK, it all belongs to the Lord. And the same rules and love that God uses to govern us in Nigeria is the same way that he governs us in the UK. And if you feel like you need to change because you've moved to another country, or change your ways, or you feel like it doesn't matter, you don't need to try at the marriage, it's not about the country you've moved to, it's about your heart, right? And you need to go back to, where is your heart? Is it still with the Lord? Is it still trusting God? And if there's challenges in your marriage, right, which is what this is a result of, I would believe, because if you truly love your partner, you don't just decide to let them go. You don't just decide that, oh, I now know that I can do this. I don't need him anymore. I can do this. I can do that. If you feel like you don't need your partner because of the freedom, the newfound freedom that you have seen, then you need to think about why you married them in the first place. Honestly, moving to a new land where you don't know anyone, where it's completely new, everything is new, can really reveal the health of your marriage. Let me be honest. Like, for example, moving back to the UK, for us, it has been challenging. Not because I thought that it wouldn't be as challenging because I lived here before, but my husband has never lived here. It's completely different. And what I would say that the lifestyle in Nigeria is very unique to Nigeria and unique to like Africa, right? It's not common everywhere else. For example, there are a lot of things that you have to, when you move abroad, you have to start doing yourself. Like that you never had to do. Even if it's something as simple as putting the bins out. That can cause fight, by the way. Putting the bins out, it can cause fight. Because in Nigeria, you probably have a maid, so you've never had to put the bins out. So these are things that, domestic chores, doing the school runs, all these things that potentially you had somebody that assisted with it back home in Nigeria. When you come abroad, you've got to do it yourselves. A lot of Nigerian men are not as domesticated as they are required to be in the UK or abroad, essentially, because a lot of the things that, domestic chores and domestic needs are met with maids and nannies. So it can be quite challenging because for us as women, we have to kind of I have to do this mode. You've got to sort out the children. You have to sort out the home. And if the majority of that it then falls on the woman, and the man is still trying to function as he does or as he did in Nigeria, it can bring resentment. It can bring frustration. It can bring a number of negative emotions that you don't even recognize because you're thinking that, okay, I'm working and but maybe she's working as well. And it's like, where do we meet in the middle? Why am I saying this? I am saying this because I find that it's important that we need to get real. If you are deciding that you are moving with your family, you are moving wherever, yes, you see the possibilities of what life will be. But we need to be honest that your life will never be the same exactly as how it was in Nigeria or wherever else you're coming from. It's changing. And are you ready for that change? Are you ready to know that you are not going to be that same person that you were before? And if you are someone that has the means to replicate the life you had of having the domestic staff and everything, wonderful. Nothing has to change. But for the majority that don't have that, these are things that you have to discuss. When you decide that you want your family to move abroad, factor in these things, these quote unquote small things, domestic chores, right? Working, money. There are a lot of things that you have to talk about. And I think probably another reason why marriages are breaking down is because we're not communicating our needs. So if it's that you need more help in the house, you need to speak out. It may seem obvious to you that, can't you see that I need help? No, it might not be obvious to the other person. So or maybe it's to do with money. Maybe you want to change how you're spending money or how you're saving your money, or you want to have more say in how the money is spent. Speak about it. Also, there are those of you that maybe you're in quite unhealthy marriages where, maybe the husband is mean to the wife or the wife is mean to the husband, right? Like I said, moving abroad will reveal the health of your marriage. So maybe the person that you're being mean to feels like, oh my God, finally I can breathe, right? And they decided that they're no longer going to take it anymore. And they see that as an opportunity to get you back or have freedom. There is a lot of that. There has been cases of DV that have been exposed when people have moved abroad, because finally the person, the survivor, feels like they can be free and they have people to support them. There are real cases, and there are also people that lie, which is very unfortunate and really sad, because that's disgusting. You should never have to lie, or you should never lie on anybody. It's wrong. But there are people doing that as well, which is the downside of, because we have freedom, you then use it in a nasty way. That's wrong. But like I said, I think it's really important for us to think about, why did you marry that person in the first place? And if it's that you are in a situation where there is DV, or the person is horrible, then it's time for you to leave. Don't wait till you move abroad. Like, whatever you need to do, it is possible for you to leave that situation. Because God forbid, what if you don't even make it abroad? Right? There have been cases that unfortunately the person didn't make it, and I never want to have to hear more of that, especially not in this community. I think it's important for us to look at ourselves, look at where we are at, and think about, okay, if you are thinking about moving, think about, is this right for us? I've said it before, don't do it because others are doing it, or it seems to make sense. Pray about this. I know that there were marriages that were great before, and I mean, like, probably great. There was no issue. But once they moved abroad, it fell apart. And was it the abroad's fault? No, maybe it wasn't the right time. Or maybe they weren't supposed to leave. So we have to be very mindful that these are critical stages, like moving your whole family, leaving everything that you know. It's a big deal. So is it abroad that's changing women? I don't think so. But do they receive more of a voice? Do they have more freedom abroad? Yes, they do. So maybe that's what's changing them, that they have the ability to decide what they want to do with their lives, which maybe that they didn't have before they moved. So I want you to see it as that, and think on that. Wherever you are at, if that's something that you're thinking about doing, let's check the health of our marriage first. Yeah? Thank you guys for watching. I would love to see your comments below. Let me know if this resonates with you. And if you're in a place where you're deciding whether you should move, how are you deciding? What are you looking at? Yeah. And those men that I asked earlier, that question, please, you people should answer in the comment section. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.